Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share information about the minors in the Earth and Planetary Sciences. It turns out this week that our advisor for most of these minors is out, and so I am a professor in the department who I basically volunteered to talk about all of these. I've been the minor advisor for geophysics for many years, and I'm excited to talk to you about these other minors that we have as well. In the Earth Planetary Sciences department. So just before I start, to let you know a little bit about our department, we have 22 faculty. We're a pretty diverse department with 10 women faculty. 9 of our faculty members identify as BIPOC, and there's several first generation faculty as well. We cover everything from geology, geochemistry, geophysics, geobiology, and planetary sciences, which basically is everything in the universe. But we really focus on the interrelationships between the Earth and all of the processes that happen on Earth. There's 2 majors in our department, geology and marine and coastal sciences, and our upper division courses typically have less than 40 students. I'm teaching a class right now that has 15 students in it. Why might you think about doing a minor in our department? This is a poster summarizing how geosciences is related to sustainability goals set out by the United Nations called Geosciences for the Future. And I'm just going to point out a few things from this poster to give you an idea of how our minors might link into things that you both value and also careers that you might be interested in. So the first thing is that geosciences is going to play a really important role in terms of ensuring access to clean and sustainable water. It's really important for extracting critical mineral resources that we need for everything from green technology like solar and wind power to the rare earth elements that are in your telephone. It's incredibly important for understanding geothermal energy, how to build buildings and other infrastructure safely and in a way that is sustainable and doesn't cause other issues in the environment, and also plays a role for things like carbon capture and storage technologies, which are trying to be developed. And then finally, geosciences plays a huge role in trying to understand climate change mitigation, in particular by looking into the past and understanding past climates through the rock record, but then also taking that together with science policy issues. So the sustainability goals that these are linked to come from the United Nations. The United Nations has laid out 17 sustainability goals in which geosciences plays a role in basically all of these. So I won't go through and read them here, but you can see that there's things related to not just energy, but also poverty, hunger, equality, and even peace and justice. And this is because the things that happen in the world affect where we live, and then that affects basically how we live. So what I want to do is use this poster as a way of describing each of our minors. So one of our minors is oceanography. This minor requires 32 to 34 units. It has 4 core courses that are in geology or environmental science and policy. They're actually co-listed. And then there's, you select from a series of electives, which are in a broad range of other programs from geology, atmospheric science, ETOX, so lots of different backgrounds. And this minor would be linked to things like actually understanding the oceans, having sustainable fisheries, and actually and how we use the ocean for our sustenance as well as environmentally. I'm having a hard time thinking about the right words right now. We also have minors, students who minor in the oceanography have gone into teaching, through K through 12 teaching, environmental consulting, working on science policy issues with like government or non-governmental organizations, and also working in science outreach. One really interesting thing about this minor is that it requires that the students be at the Bodega Marine Lab for 1 summer, as one of the courses is required and is taught out there at Bodega Marine Lab. So that's a really cool opportunity to have hands-on interaction with the Marine Lab. Another one of our minors is the environmental geology minor. This minor has 27 to 28 units. There's, again, 4 core courses, mainly in geology and soil science, and then again has a bunch of electives. I'm sorry, I forgot to delete this part that says requires 1 summer at the Magali lab. That's not for this major. And this minor would focus on questions related to environmental and landscape protection, contaminated land, how do you both protect it and clean it up afterwards, questions related to environmental chemistry, and then also not just those questions at the surface, but also in terms of groundwater and hydrogeology. So this has broad career opportunities related to actually like where do we get our water and how do we keep our land free from contamination, and if it is get contaminated, how do we fix it? The third minor that we have is geophysics. This has 4 core courses that are all in the geology department, covering a range of geophysics topics. And then there's 2 electives that can be chosen from courses within geology, hydrology, and environmental civil engineering. These geophysics minor can be related to things ranging from planetary geology and how we interpret and understand data that comes back from missions to Mars or other places. GIS and remote sensing, these are tools that are used to actually measure the things that are happening on the Earth. And there's lots of geophysics measurements that are taken and need to be analyzed and interpreted. And then also seismology, which is related to earthquakes and earthquake hazard, as well as looking for mineral resources and understanding the subsurface structure related to where we find minerals, geothermal energy, and hydrology. So a lot of geophysics is focused on actually imaging the shallow subsurface beneath the Earth, so we understand how to build buildings there, what we can extract from the beneath the land surface, and then also, for example, like storing water within aquifer systems for later use, which is a big application in California. Students who have a geophysics minor tend to go into consulting, either environment, exploration, or engineering consulting, as well as government jobs working for like the California Geological Survey or for the, oh my goodness. I just forgot the name. I'll just keep going. As well as students who are preparing for graduate school in order to get a master's degree or a PhD. And so the final minor that we have in our department is for geology. The geology minor requires 19 to 24 units. It's actually split up into several emphasis choices that you could look at. So you could emphasize in geology, which has a lot of overlap with the geology majors courses. You could emphasize in engineering geology, which again focuses more on hydrology and soil science. There's also an emphasis in geochemistry, which requires a pretty good chemistry background and is really interesting for understanding like water chemistry related to questions about actually mostly climate related questions in terms of water chemistry. And then there's also a paleobiology emphasis, which could be related to anthropology, evolution and ecology, as well as geology courses. So just to all of these, there's a lot of options, right? There's like core courses with lots of other options behind them, but I just want to talk a little bit about like the prerequisites. The lower division prerequisites typically require like a Geology 1 or Geology 50. These are the Introduction to the Earth courses. Depending on the course, there may be a math or physics requirement. Usually this is only math 16 or math 21, and then physics 7 or 9. And for the geophysics minor, this would require like the full series of physics and math, but a lot of the other classes don't require that level. And then depending on the major, depending on the minor choice, you might need to take an upper division prerequisite like Geology 116, which is the Introduction to Oceanography course, and that would be required before going on into an oceanography minor. The elective courses also have some other prerequisites, so it really depends on what what major you're coming from and what your background already is, but you have a lot of choices. So there's a lot of flexibility in having getting a minor like this to fit in with the major that you already have. And finally, if you want to think about like, well, what minor might pair with a major that I already have. So I've listed here the minors on one side, and then some majors that would pair pretty easily with each of these. So for like oceanography, if you're already interested in environmental science and policy, or chemistry, or biology, or even physics, you already have a connection with oceanography and could add this as a minor in those disciplines. Whereas like geophysics pairs very nicely with physics, but as well could bring somebody in from civil engineering, environmental engineering would fit in with a geophysics minor pretty easily as well. So if you would like to have more information about these minors, a place to go is just eps.ucdavis.edu. Find the drop-down menu for students and undergraduates, and then you'll find information on the minors there, as well as specific drop-downs for careers in geosciences, as well as careers in marine and coastal sciences. And that will go through a lot of different examples of what students in these programs have actually gone on to do in their careers after finishing these programs. So I think the important thing to see is that there are flexible options here, and there are options that allow you to think about, how do I take my STEM major and add on a focus that might be on sustainability through the geosciences into the expertise you have from your other major. And I'll be happy to take any questions.
Yeah, so I just had a question. You mentioned that there's a very small faculty and that you are also a professor. And I would like to know, do you notice like the same students in your classes? Do you think you get to know them well?
Yeah, actually, this quarter I'm teaching an intro class on near surface geophysics. And I also teach an intro to geophysics class, which is a lower division course. And I had about half my class continue from one class to the other, which was really nice. I also have noticed now in our Friday, so we have a Friday seminar series that undergrads come to, that there's students that are coming from physics who are in this class that I have, but are also clearly taking other courses in our department. So I'm getting to know them both in my class, but also through like the seminars we have in our department.
Great, thank you. And then also, I was just curious, you mentioned GIS in your diagram, and is GIS taught as in the coursework for these minors?
So the GIS is there. We don't have a class that's specific to GIS because that's actually taught in another department. And if I were an advisor, I would know which department that is, but I don't know that. But we do use GIS within our structural geology courses and our geomorphology courses. So our upper division geology courses are using QGIS for making maps, interpreting geology on maps, but we don't have a course that's dedicated just to that class. Although I think it's actually one of the electives that's available for the geology minor.
Okay, thank you. And then also, you mentioned research in Bodega Bay being a requirement of the oceanography minor. For the other minors, are you able to complete research, an internship, or maybe even a practicum for academic credit to count towards the minor, as in like a 192 or a 198 course?
So I tried to find that information, and because I'm not one of the major minor advisors and Mandy is gone this week, I didn't get a chance to ask her that question. I did not see it explicitly listed under any of our minors. So that would be something that we have to actually ask the minor advisor specifically.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, no worries. Thank you. And then also, I was just wondering, just in general, what makes the minor unique in your eyes? Like, what's your favorite part about it? Or for all of them, because there's so many.
For all of them, I think they give you a window into how the Earth actually works, and how you can help with making our presence on the Earth more sustainable through actually knowing about all of these different components of how the Earth works. So it gives you like this empowering sort of perspective, instead of just feeling like all this stuff is happening on the earth and I can't do anything about it. And it so by just even becoming educated about it, it makes you more informed, even if you don't go on into a career in one of these directions.